Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to go through the best moments, the top grapplers of the year, best male grappler, best female grappler of the year, best submission, best match of the year, all that good stuff. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Miranda.
Hey, doing Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Full disclosure, we're going to rip most of this list from the Flow Grappling Awards list. We do it every year. It is a quiet week this year. It is quiet. It is a quiet week. Ooh, let me get this intro out. It is quiet this year with the new year. We are about to rip the podcast set down to redo the entire thing, so that's exciting for a news note. But basically, I think this year Flow has a pretty good list together. We're going to talk through some of the stuff they have, but really just recap the year, talk about matches you should go back and rewatch, big moments from the year. And this is, again, the end of the year show. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in the first week of this year because we had stuff to cover last week, but this is the award show for the year. So big things this year. I don't think we have any news. I think we kind of just want to get right into it.
Yeah, I don't think we have any news. Not that I've seen, at least.
So where do you want to start with this? I think honestly, I want to talk about match of the year.
Okay.
Because I think this is the easiest category that we have had in many years. We on the show typically cover like a collection of matches throughout the day. Throughout the week that happened, we talk about the big matches, the ones we thought were most interesting, some moments from those. For our match of the year, this is clearly Cade Rotolo versus Andrew Tackett at the Craig Jones Invitational round, semifinal round for the under 77 kilo division, or under 80 kilo division. Semifinals.
Was it semifinals? Oh, yeah,
because Levi Jones Leary was the finals,
and
that match was kind of meh. It was again, Cade won it, but this match, we did an entire breakdown show going like minute by minute, like moment by moment for this match this year. I don't think even in the COVID years, we ever did a full literally entire show dedicated to one match. It was the best match of the year. It still honestly was probably the best grappling match I have ever seen, like at this level. It has a good storyline. The stakes are high. Two guys willing to go. And again, both guys said it in their post-fight interview. You need two guys like that are willing to engage to have a match be able to be this great. This, again, is one of, if not the greatest match of modern era. It is absolutely there. It is clearly my match of the year. Miranda, do you have any kind of pushback on this?
No, not at all.
Flo has a bunch of other matches that were all great from the year. But I
pulled Jits Magazine because they also have like a list, and they have some of the same ones. They have a couple extras because I don't know, like the Flow list is very Flow specific.
It's ADCC and IBJJF and who's number one. That's all, and then they have the one. And I think it's the only thing on the entire Flow list that really references another promotion that was not on Flow Grappling, which again I appreciate because in prior years they haven't done that, and so I do appreciate them kind of like recognizing at least and giving credit where credit is due for a match this great. That like, yep, it wasn't broadcast on the service, but it was such a great match. It deserves to be here. I think that is very telling. Anyway, it's like it was so good that it is included in the Flow Grappling match of the year contention for a match that was not broadcast on Flow Grappling.
That's true.
That should tell you how good of a match this was. We did an entire breakdown show on the match.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to read through the other matches. There were some great matches. Flo has a big list of them. You can look through them. None of them are close to being as good as Cade Rotolo versus Andrew Tackett in that semifinal round. That should have been the finals. We said it. We knew it was going to be fireworks, and then it lived up and even surpassed what we could have imagined that match was being. So it was super fun. Also in the pit. It was a great match to have in the pit. It's really the match that if you are trying to get someone into grappling or into kind of willing to watch pro grappling and understand like why it's important and why it's interesting and why it's exciting, that is the match you should show them. For me, it is now above Gary Tonin versus Usama Palhares at Polaris. That was
a fun match.
Yeah. It is now my new showcase match when I'm trying to get people to understand, hey, this is what this sport is.
Though, if you show them that, some people would be scared away.
Yeah, that's the goal, Miranda. Scare them.
Because it's a lot. It's a lot.
And I'm not scared of Paul Harris going for your legs and Gary Tonin going for your legs. It's a great match. Miranda, any other kind of thoughts on that for match of the year?
Nope.
That's my match of the year. Let's move through. Where do you want to go from here? We can do grappler of the year. We can do breakout of the year. We can do submission of the year.
Let's do male grappler of the year.
Male grappler of the year. We have on the list for Flow. They have Adam Wardzinski, Dante Leon, Diego Pato Oliveira, Gordon Ryan, Cade Rotolo, Mika Galval, Kaina Duarte, and Nick Rodriguez. I kind of want to go through all of these guys because I think, as we talked through it on the pre-show, it gets pretty easy to figure out who we want to pick for this.
Yeah.
And we get in. This show also gives us a good opportunity to talk through big moments that these guys had throughout the year and kind of gives you, oh yeah, I remember that was this. Oh, that's why this match was so important. Oh yeah, that's why I forgot that happened this year. Things like that. Adam Wardzinski on this list is really here for two things in my eyes. And Flo lists some other items. He finally was able to beat Felipe Andrew.
Twice.
And that comeback performance he had, I think it...
Worlds.
Was it Worlds or Euros? Or Pans? It was a major for IBJJF.
I thought it was Worlds, and then he turned around and at Pans did the same thing. But it could be the other way around.
Yeah.
So.
I don't remember which one it was. But basically, Adam's down like 11-0 or something like that. And in the last like 2 minutes or like 90 seconds... turns it around to beat Felipe Andrew, a guy that he has notoriously for years struggled to get past. And it was like this great moment. Again, as a guy personally, I love Adam Wardzinski's game. I watched years ago the BJJ Scout 4-part study they did on his butterfly guard, moving into some other guards that he plays. And I've watched Adam's career through the entirety of it. To watch him finally be able to get over that hump and beat Felipe Andrew and have like a repeatable way to beat Felipe Andrew.
He beat him in finals at the European Open.
Okay.
And then he also beat him, because I know there's twice.
Yeah, another time. He's also the first European to win a Worlds, which is, as a male, which is super impressive as well. But that big moment, and then him winning the crown. Those two moments I think are why Adam is on this list. It was really cool as a guy that's been a fan of Adam for many years, and way longer than we've been doing this show. Cool to see him finally be able to get that world title that we've seen him chasing for his entire competitive career. It was a really cool moment. That's why for me he's on this list. Another one on this list. I want to talk about Gordon Ryan right now, because he's won the last. I mean, I think. For the last 2 years, we've essentially like disqualified him from this conversation. Because like, yeah, Gordon's the best guy. I would think Gordon's the best guy of the year. This is the first year I think his inclusion on this list is kind of makes you go, I don't know. I don't think he should win this year.
Yeah.
We disqualified him because it was very clear in prior years that he was the guy. Yeah, obviously he had the best year. This year he has 3 matches. He has a win over Josh Saunders, who was a brown belt on WNL. Again, in quotes there, brown belt. He's a black belt now. I think he got black belt like 2 or 3 weeks after that match.
Yeah.
But Saunders was a guy that is not very beatable, but like you can game plan against where he's strong. You know where he's strong. He has not been training more than 3 or 4 years at this point. And so a very known kind of quantity for what he brings to the table. A match that we all kind of looked at when we previewed went, yeah, Gordon should be able to absolutely very cleanly and definitively beat Josh Saunders, and he did. So for me, it's like it really wasn't that impressive as a showcase match, because like, yep, you should beat the guy that you should be able to beat, and you did. And then he has 2 matches back-to-back days at ADCC, one over Felipe Pena and the next against Yuri Simoes for the actual super fight title. In both matches he wins, but in both matches he looks the worst that we have ever seen Gordon look since I have been covering him on the show.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I interviewed him day 1 ADCC 2019 when he had like food poisoning that day or the day prior, and he looked significantly worse in these matches, even than 5 years ago when he had food poisoning. He just didn't compete enough this year, and when he did compete, he looked physically unwell.
Well, I also feel that they were cherry picking the matches that he was taking. He has good
career management, but I think that level of career management in eyes like, makes you kind of like not eligible.
If one of them was maybe like Kynan, that's going to show up later on
Yeah,
our list.
Kynan's in this list as well.
Like, okay, you beat Kynan. Kynan's
Kynan's a monster.
Kynan's a monster.
We know he's a monster.
And
And Felipe's a monster. You're a monster. But you've had matches and beat those guys before. We know that you can do it.
Yeah.
Kynan, again, technically, he also has had a match against Kynan as well. But it was really close.
But that was like the old Kynan.
It was 2018.
Yeah, and I feel like
way
Kynan,
long ago.
over the last couple of years, Kynan's picked it up.
Kynan's a different guy 6 years later
Yeah.
in this match. So yeah, this was it is interesting to kind of look back for what Gordon's done, and in prior years what Gordon has done in contrast to this year. And it was like, this year just really wasn't active enough against enough high level guys for me to really feel any urge to pick him for male grappler of the year. I think he's going to retire this year. I think this will be notably like the last year that he competes at any sort of frequency. I think we only saw 3 matches out of him this year, 2 of them the same weekend. And given the post and like the video he put out this year about the steroid stuff, I think he's kind of done.
Yeah.
Which it sucks to kind of end on this note, but I would hope and love to be wrong about that. Have him heal up and have him look like he did, in 2022. That would be really cool to see.
But you also don't want him to take the turn of some people who continue to compete when they should not be competing.
Mm-hmm. So I hope I wish the guy well. Hope he everything goes well. But yeah, not on my list for male grappler of the year. But again, impressive. And he's also the most polarizing, the biggest name in the sport. It is actually really odd to not kind of outright pick him this year. Yeah. It was interesting. Another person, let's go out of order, Miranda. Cade Bertolo's on this list. Cade made his debut in MMA. Again, this is not an MMA show. Big note for Cade this year is he won CJI. He won that $1 million cash prize. Yeah. He had the match of the year. For me, that puts him like really high on this list. He also had impressive performances at one. He beat Tommy Langacker. He beat Francisco Lowe. We saw him in the gi versus Nathan Chung. Like, Cade looked good this year.
Yeah.
I am hesitant to kind of pick him because we didn't see him compete we didn't see him compete a lot this year because he's in one.
Because of the one contract and the MMA. It's a combination of the two.
But when we saw him compete, I was pretty happy watching him compete. And also, you did have the match of the year. So, like, in my eyes, that kind of weight's pretty heavy. Yeah. If a guy can, win, he won the whole tournament, and in that tournament had the match of the year, puts you pretty high up.
Yeah.
But again, for male grappler of the year, and for what I think about when I think about these nominations and who we pick for these is your strength of competition throughout the year.
Yeah.
Like how many, not only big super fights did you win?
We weigh the matches.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like certain matches are definitely worth more, points in the.
Beating a big guy at Worlds, beating a big guy at a major, beating a big guy in like a showcase super fight. Like those are all big things. Guys, like if you have wins at like an open or something, or like a trials, we don't weigh those as high because the stakes for those tournaments aren't as great. The biggest stake tournament this year was CJI, and he won it.
Yeah.
And he had match of the year in that tournament. He is the one championship. It's okay, and we weigh that maybe a little less than like if you were to run into the IBJJF Worlds in the gi. Okay, why? It's because they're super fights. You can plan for them. You kind of should be able to beat them, but they are a tent pole, but they weigh differently because it's the strength and the depth and the length of your competition. How consistently can you do it and show us against all styles that you are the best guy? That's sort of how I think about this. And Cade, again, was mostly in one, but he did have that incredible performance at CJI. Next one, Kynan Duarte. Wins weight, wins absolute at ADCC.
And we really haven't seen anybody who did he get beaten by... So he lost at Karate Combat, which was a weird...
Poya Romani.
Yeah.
That was that weird match.
Weird...
Literally nothing happened. We all kind of went, that was weird. I think even then I would have given it to Kynan.
I think so too.
But it was a weird...
It was just a weird match.
Yeah.
But has he got any other losses that you can think of?
Nothing that I have his record here. Nothing that I cared about.
Yeah.
He has... Oh, yeah. He has the loss to Luke Griffith at FPI.
Yeah.
It was, I think, some of the best game planning.
Wasn't a jumping rear naked choke?
He made him tired. Yeah. And then he got his back. He gets his back, and Gordon's like, he's going to finish him, and he finished him. That was really impressive, but I think, again, it's a super fight match.
Yeah.
For me, it's impressive, but you then went on and won the tournament that guy was in.
Yeah.
and both divisions at that tournament, I think for me that has higher standings.
Yeah.
I think it is funny though, and is a kind of a point to talk about, is that for CJI and for ADCC, those were kind of not half tournaments is the right way to put it, but both of those tournaments were easier this year than they would be any other year, because you had half your really good guys in one at CGI, you had half your really good guys at ADCC.
Yeah.
So it's like Kynan's performance is like, again, he has 2 wins over Cyborg by guillotine. He has 2 wins over Declan Moody, weight and an absolute by guillotine. It was like, okay, I really wonder. He has a win over Lovato. Like,
Yeah.
the level at ADCC this year, especially in the heavier divisions, the division that Kynan wins, is kind of like you have a bit of an asterisk. You're like, yeah, you won that. But it was also a weird year for ADCC because, like, you didn't have Victor Hugo in the division. But you didn't have Nick Rodriguez in the division.
But then he also won IBJJF, the Nogi Absolute Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And
this, in my eyes,
he went 12-2 for the year.
Yeah. And the loss to Luke and the loss to Poya. But the
Yeah.
Poya loss is whatever. The loss to Luke is like a really good performance for Luke. And
Yeah.
Luke game planned that perfectly, but then couldn't replicate that in making it to Kynan.
Well, because I'm sure the Atos team was like, oh, you don't have conditioning? Oh, we're going to give you conditioning now.
We're gonna fix those
Like
problems
that's,
for you. Yeah. It was interesting. I think, honestly, Kynan has one of the strongest resumes of the year because, again, you won. You did the thing that is so hard to do.
Yeah.
Win the weight, win the absolute ADCC. Plus, you also had a bunch of other really impressive no-gi performances.
I still think him going against Pato was one of the most hilarious things.
At ADCC
Yeah.
in the absolute, it was like, that's kind of mean. Then ADCC, one thing I love about ADCC is that if you are a small guy,
they put you
and
against,
you go into absolute, they always put you against the biggest guy. And
what was he doing?
I
Was he
appreciate-
choking him?
No, he was like
No, he's shaking him.
He was like smothering his face.
But wasn't he like shaking him too?
I think so a little
It was
bit.
there was something that
He
was
big brother. They did it with Keith versus Bushesha.
Yeah.
They always put your 66 kilo guy against one of your guys at above or under 99 kilos.
I just remember Kynan was doing something. Oh no, he was grabbing both hands behind the head and shaking.
He was like can opening shaking.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I just remembered there was something that he kept on doing that we were giggling about, but I forget what it was.
Yeah.
And I remember
He also beat Roberto Jimenez this year. Yeah. Kynan had an incredible year this year. But again, it is kind of marked with that weird ADCC year where 4 of your wins were against 2 different guys by the same thing. And we've seen how successful Declan has been versus the guys like Felipe Pena. We've seen how successful Cyborg has been, like, not as active this year because of the ban of IBGF and, like, just overall, like, he's in his early 40s now. It kind of it colors that run a little bit because you didn't have to go through Victor Hugo. You didn't have to go through Nick Rodriguez. You didn't have to go through, pick your other huge powerhouse guys that were in CJI because they were notably absent from ADCC. Anything else on Kynan?
Nope.
Mika Gavao. Gavao had an incredible run this year. He Grand Slammed, and he's now the youngest youngest male to ever Grand Slam. I think there's been a younger woman than 20 to Grand Slam. I could be wrong about that.
Cassia Moore.
But I don't know. I don't think she Grand Slammed because she just got to purple to blue to black in a year.
That's true. She just got through everything.
But I think I always mix up if it's at black belt or not because there's been other young Grand Slam winners, but I don't think they are at black belt. But Mika for men is the youngest person to Grand Slam. Wins Euros, wins Pans, wins Brasileiros, wins Worlds, wins the ADCC title in the same year that he wins Worlds, which for me is just like phenomenally impressive. He did have a rubber match with Dante Leone where he gets subbed.
In absolute.
In absolute at ADCC, but it's also, that's one of, we talked about this on the pre-show a little bit. They've had 3 matches, Dante and Mika Gavao at this point. The first 2 are really contentious. You can make an argument in both of them that Dante maybe should have won. The first one was who's number 1. You can pick and choose how you want the decision to go there. Second one was at ADCC where there was an oddity in the scoring.
Yeah.
And then Mika ended up winning that because he was ahead with where the scoring was. Yeah. They waited a long time to take points away that Dante hadn't earned, but it looked like Dante had earned those points, and so he changed his tactics. You can get it. You can watch the match and hear the recaps of them back when they happened. This match was in the absolute, and Dante's able to ankle lock. It looked like a heel hook, but it was an ankle lock, like a belly sideways ankle lock to beat Mika Gavao. it's really impressive, but I think it doesn't really take away from the fact that he wins the Grand Slam in the gi and then also wins the biggest prestigious no-gi tournament. I say this, notably, he's in a division that was very heavily affected by CJI.
True.
So a bunch of, like, he didn't have, the guy who beat him last time, Cade Bertolo.
Yeah.
Because Cade Bertolo was at CJI, and Cade Bertolo won CJI. So it kind of puts, again, unfortunately for these guys for this year, it puts a little bit of an asterisk for how impressive that win was, because it's like, well, yeah, but half your division wasn't there. They were in the other tournament. There was other notable guys. But again, you beat who shows up. That's very, very impressive. And again, you won all the IBJJF stuff, which all of them show up for that. So it's interesting. He's been hinting a move over to MMA. I hope he doesn't do that. He's young. He's 20. I hope he's able to make enough money grappling and doesn't need to go get punched in the face for it. But he would be a wild guy to watch in MMA. So, maybe in 5 years we see the rematch with him and Cade in ONE FC. That would be kind of nifty. Anything else you want to talk about from Mika?
Nope.
Nick Rodriguez. Nick Rodriguez had a phenomenal run this year. He wins the CGI tournament, notably half and half. He didn't have to beat Victor Hugo, a guy who's beaten him numerous times, because Victor Hugo got taken out by Lucas Kennard.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you go, I'm curious. Also, notably not in that tournament, Margali or Kainan Duarte. Like, we kind of talk about, it's a really impressive win. He wins $1 million doing it, but who, did it have the best guys in it? Well, no, a lot of the guys were missing. I think most impressively this year for me was the rematch with Roberto Jimenez. He beats at FPI, and then also his match over Mason Fowler, where I think Fowler came in with, not the best game plan, which is part of this, but also just...
I also wonder if Mason's back injury, because remember he had a back injury.
Yeah, it took him out of CGI, didn't it? Yeah.
So, but even though... because you are, you got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was impressive to watch him beat Mason Fowler.
Yeah. And then he also beat Pixley as well, who's, I think, on breakout of the year. But, again, Nick Rodriguez had a great year. The $1 million win is that big win of the year, beating that big division. But, again, it was a lot of super fights in that one tournament. Also on this list, we have Pato. Was on this list. Pato looked amazing. He gets silver.
Was this Pato's turn to AOJ? Did he just do that?
I think this is I think Pato this year, because he's listed as AOJ. I think that was this year. It might have been late
he was
last
Unity
year.
and then switched over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He wins Worlds, wins the crown. He gets both championships at WNO this year over Dante. Pato had an amazing run, but he did get silver at ADCC Worlds in a division that was the full stacked division, because he was at 66 kilos that wasn't affected by CJI.
Yeah.
That's the big knock this year. Pato probably takes this any other year if he wins that gold, but that loss in the finals versus Baby Shark kind of makes you go, can you be Grappler of the Year if you didn't win that big tournament?
Who won their Who's Number One match?
He beat Baby Shark because of the foot injury.
Yeah.
Because of the knee injury. And then he beat Dante with the heel hook.
Yeah.
So it's like those both, you beat guys that are in those contentions and winning those world titles, but at ADCC, he didn't.
Didn't they both meet each other again at Who's Number One? Wasn't I there? Wasn't I physically there for that match?
I think you might have been.
I know, and I'm trying to think. That's my only... If he takes second place, but then turns around and beats the person...
yeah, but you didn't beat him at the major event. That was my kind of... I don't remember how that went.
Yeah.
This is a really tough one. I honestly kind of want to go... Sorry, do you have anything else on these guys? Did we talk about Dante already?
Yes, we did.
You did. For this one, I kind of want to go Kainan.
I mean, I think Kainan.
You beat everyone that was in front of you this year, aside from Luke Griffith in that match at FPI, which I think that's always kind of been Kainan's problem. Is he'll have one little throughout the year. He'll have one moment where it's just like something happens in one match, and then throughout the rest of the year, homie looks bulletproof. So that's those are the big guys for the year. all of them had great matches, great performances, and you can go back and watch a bunch of them. And you should, honestly, if you need something to watch this week. Let's talk about, I'm going to do female grappler of the year.
Sure.
We have on the list Adele Fornerino, Anna Carolina Vieira, Brandon St. Marie, Elizabeth Clay, Fionn Davies, Gabby Pisana, Helena Corvar, and Maisa Bastos. For me, this is a pretty easy pick for Adele Fornerino, Daddy.
Yeah.
She won the inaugural new women's under 55 kilo division at ADCC, and then turns around and does what no one can ever do. As the smaller person, goes and wins the absolute. The first women's absolute we've had in the modern era for ADCC. And for me, end of list.
Yeah.
Like,
she's kind of
no one does that.
Yeah, she's kind of won everything, and as a smaller person.
Mm-hmm. For people that haven't been watching grappling a long time, this is so wildly uncommon. It's hard to kind of put into words just like how this just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like a person in your smallest division, again, there's only 3 divisions for women's ADCC, but the top division doesn't have a weight cap.
Yeah.
And then you making that under 55 kilo cut, winning that division, and then going on to win, like kind of won the bigger division.
Yeah.
And then he wins absolute. Like that's to be expected. That is the norm. Gordon wins his division as plus 99, then goes and wins the absolute. Like that is common. Bouchesha. Like you can pick, yeah, man, your guys above 185 have a real shot at winning their division and then winning absolute. It happens. It has always happened. That's sort of how the sport always goes. That's why Lachlan at under 77 kilos a couple years ago, even placing, was so impressive. Because like guys at under 77, like Marcelo, placing in the absolute, it's so impressive to have those guys be able to make it up in spite of being the smaller guys. For Adele to be at under 55 kilos and then win the absolute, win it, is just something that I do not think we will see again for a very long time. It is so wildly uncommon. It is easily, for me, what cements her as grappler of the year. And we talked about this when she did it. I was like, I don't think anyone will be able to top that level of accomplishment this year because it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
It'd be the equivalent of essentially Maisa Bastos going and winning absolute in the gi.
Well, don't we have
You're going to counterpoint me immediately.
No, I'm just thinking about Fionn Davies.
Yeah, but Fionn, she's not under 55.
Yeah, but she's not. Yeah, she's a little bit bigger, and she's towards the middle of the pack rather than like the end.
And she was smaller early career.
Yeah.
And Fionn's looked phenomenal this year, but she wasn't in the division for ADCC.
Yeah.
She went and got the super fight with Mackenzie Dern, which was impressive. But also, I think we all were like, "Yep, she should absolutely be able to beat Mackenzie Dern, who has been out of pro grappling for almost 10 years." It would almost be an indictment if she doesn't, and she very clearly did. Yeah, knew how to do it. She looked impressive this year.
She had a bunch of ADXC wins where she subbed everybody.
Yeah,
I think about it, and even like when she did ADCC, she's in Euros coming up at the end of the month.
So we'll see her. But really, it was a couple super fights this year. She had big super fights that she won, and she looked impressive in.
Yeah.
I think she beats Brianna Ste Marie again in a super fight this year, beats Mo Black this year, but it was a lot of her kind of knocking down contenders, and we didn't see her in a big showcase tournament. Like for me, in jiu-jitsu, tournaments are the thing that are important.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, can you win? Yeah, anyone can game plan, not anyone. Good camps can game plan to win a match, and good grapplers can game plan to win. How do you beat that guy in front of you?
Yeah.
To be able to enter a 32 or a 16-person bracket and still be able to do it, that's kind of a different level of accomplishment. It requires, in my eyes, like a different level of prestige to be able to do that, because it was like, yeah, it means you had to have good performances through 3 or 4 or 5 matches, depending on the format. Really impressive. Fionn, again, looked amazing last year. I think she was the grappler of the year last year, but just didn't have any tournaments this year to kind of point to where it's like, yep, you did the tournament thing. Adele did that. Elizabeth Clay's big thing this year, she's on this list. I think it's most impressive that she had a baby and then gets back like 17 weeks later to win double gold at Nogi Pants.
Yeah.
Like it's
pretty wild.
Incredible. And then she wins the Worlds a month later. That's really impressive. I think that's it's more she's on this list because she had the child and was able to do it, and that is impressive, versus the impressiveness of her performances, which is kind of like an odd way to put that.
Yeah.
Again, super impressive. Elizabeth Clay's always been on this list. I think since she was like 17 or 18, consistently always in this mix for Grappler of the Year. But again, I go back to Adele. Like, you won them both. Super impressive for me. Anna Carolina Vieira had an incredible match. She's the ADCC World Champion. She beat Helena Krovar in, I think it will go down as a benchmarking match is the right way to put it.
Yeah.
But these two ladies will meet again, and I am very curious. But to be able to deal with, like, because Helena was looking good versus everyone, she runs into Anna Carolina Vieira and was like, okay, yep, this is what the top end upper echelon is going to be, and why she's so hard to deal with. She won South American trials, but overall, Daddy did both divisions.
Yeah.
And won both divisions. Next up, we have Gabby Pisana. Moves over to Nogi this year. Looks really good. Wins double gold at Nogi Worlds. Overall, she's been super dominant in the gi. She's won everything in the gi over and over and over and over again. I will be more curious if she starts entering more big professional tournaments. And one of the reasons we tend to cover professional grappling on the show, IBJJF, although impressive, is like an amateur circuit where the athletes are typically unpaid. And so I tend to always, when I kind of consider matches of the year, consider if it is a paid professional tournament versus an IBJJF or like a non-professional tournament, because that, for me, professional tournaments are of more prestige because you are getting paid as a professional to be there. The amateur tournaments are great and nice, and Pisana is like the absolutely most dominant woman in the gi for the amateur tournaments. Also wins the crown.
I think she also won. She won at least a couple super fights on BJJ Stars.
Yeah. She had an incredible
year. If not
year.
a bracket for BJJ Stars, if I remember
Incredible
that right.
year in the gi.
No gi doesn't seem to be a problem for her.
Yeah, no. I'm curious. I think next year she will win Grappler of the Year, because I think she'll do both. I think she'll be the first woman in a while to get to do double Grand Slam gi and no gi. I think next year is going to be her year, but this year, just coming into no gi.
But she also has the benefit of, like, Kine and Duarte,
Yeah.
where you are the top weight class.
Biggest and strongest.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And she plays the game. She moves you into the game that she can, partially because she has the size and the strength to be able to do it. We saw her versus Brianna St. Marie.
Yeah.
Belly down, ankle locker with no leg control. It was like, okay, well, you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that doesn't really take away from it, but it's, again, I would love to see her in more, bigger, like, pro tournaments.
Do you know what would be fun?
What would be fun?
Gabby Pisana versus Daddy.
I'd watch it. That'd be fun as shit.
Because it would just be interesting to see how
Pisana deals with, like,
a little super attacking.
That would be really. I kind of want to see that.
Because Adele would attack, and Gabby likes to pull, but I don't know if she could pull. I think Adele might. I don't know.
I think stylistically it'd be a very interesting.
It'd be interesting. It might be super boring, but it might be super interesting too. It has one of those, but I think that would be like the finals of who is the most prestigious female grappler of the year.
Yeah, Jesus. I still think it's Adele though.
Yeah, I think
because you're 100 pounds lighter, that massive weight deficit. I think for me is just so impressive to be able to do.
Who did she beat? That was like huge, not huge. You know what I mean?
Didn't she?
What heavyweights did she beat?
Didn't she beat Otto's woman?
Yeah, but they were all like middle size, right?
Yeah, we didn't have any enormous women this year at ADCC that made an absolute.
No.
We had, most of the women were 50s, 51, 61, maybe 170. Like, we didn't have anyone like a Gabby Garcia. Was Amy Campbell this year?
No.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think Amy Campbell was here this year. I don't remember. She might have gotten beaten first round. Kendall wasn't here. That's last year.
Kendall was here this year. Remember? She was in like the pink and the...
Yeah, and the bow tie.
Yeah.
Again, also on this list, we have Helena Krovar.
I think Krovar in past years would have been at the top, towards the top of the list. I think this year, people have learned how to beat her.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year is almost a decline. As horrible. She
was
did
a
win.
prospect last year. She got silver.
She has won a lot of things this year, and it's not that she hasn't had a great career this year. I just feel like this year people have figured out ways to break her down.
Yeah. And we're seeing a level of improvement that's been really good. But this next year will either be, I think Krovar will be at the top, or she will kind of be more in the pack where people are going, I've figured you out now. Again, she's still, I think, 17. She's not even 18 yet.
She's a brand new brown belt.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her last year in the children's divisions
in
IBJJF.
So now she's going to be fighting adults. I think what she's been doing for 3 or 4 years at this point,
which
in
means
ADCC.
I will stay out of the adult division.
What's up, yo, Masters 2, get at me.
I'm staying in Master 2.
I think Krovar is on this list mainly because she is the youngest ADCC medalist ever.
And she has a prolific. She has a lot of wins.
She's looked really good. And she's incredibly hard to beat.
People are afraid of her.
Mm-hmm.
They will not take matches with her.
Yeah. But again, I would love to see her be on this list next year with some changes to her game and like with a world title.
Yeah.
Maisa Bastos is also here. She was able to take the title over Danielle Kelly. She wins both world titles in the gi and no gi. Again, Maisa has the. I think Maisa is much higher on this list. If you don't have Adele winning her division, and then absolute.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately it's like Maisa kind of did that in gi and no gi, but only in her division. Adele did it ADCC at both divisions in the biggest three divisions we've had.
Yeah. I think we go Adele.
Yeah. So that's Adele. Adele, I think is easily our grappler of the year here. Let's talk about breakouts. Breakout grappler of the year. I like Flo's list here. I think for me, this is kind of between two guys. So two people. On the breakout of the year, we have Achilles Rocha, we have Adele Florino, we have Cassia Mora, we have Felipe Costa, we have Michael Pixley, Owen Jones, and that is the list. For me, it's Adele. We knew about her last year, but you win both as a person that wasn't really on our radar. Easily, like everyone else here is fighting for second place.
Go all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Go all the way down one more time. Yeah, Owen Jones is my close.
Owen Jones is my second.
Yeah.
Owen Jones is my male grappler, my male breakout of the year. Adele is my overall and female of the year breakout of the year. Like for breakout of the year, this is always weird for us because usually, again, the whole point of this show is to kind of start talking about prospects and people coming up through the ranks that like you should know about later. So this is, the longer we have done the show, the more weird this category has gotten for me, because usually what this is people we knew about that suddenly had big, huge breakout performances that had not had them before.
Yeah.
They went from basically not winning majors, not really being contentions for majors the prior year, to winning majors this year. That's really what this category is for me, because again, Owen Jones this year, he was not a guy before trials that we knew about.
No, we didn't have any idea who he was when he was doing trials, because we had to look him up. And then we're like, who the hell is this? And then we're like looking him up. And
then he had great performances at ADCC over like Gabriel Souza. He had a bunch of crazy matches at AIGA. He's just looked really good whenever we've seen him. Michael Pixley, we saw last year. We know who he is.
For these reasons, we could also put Adam Warzinski on this list.
Adam Warzinski's been around for 15 years.
He has, but he breaks.
That wasn't a break. I can't find him. He has a BJJ Scout 4-part study on him.
Just kidding.
Michael Pixley's on this list this year. I don't really think Michael Pixley should be on this list this year. He has his big win over Mergali with a throw and the tearing of the shoulder. He has a counter sub guillotine win over, or Darce win over Chator in ADCC. And then he has a couple performances that are not good versus Lovato, versus Nick Rodriguez. He has a couple that are like, ugh, like you were a known quantity from the Daisy Fresh like series, and we knew who you were from there.
And he was a NCAA wrestler.
Yeah, he was. I think very much not a breakout of the year.
Yeah.
I think the win over Mergali can be like a breakout moment of the year for him, but he wasn't able to follow up with a consistency of performance after that big breakout. And for me, that's usually like, that'd be like Heisen Marida's breakout of the year was the Armbar over Cyborg. Yeah, but he had a bunch of other kind of iffy performances in that year.
Well, I think Pixley's also a developing purple belt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
like,
still purple belt. He wins gi and nogi. He wins nogi, pans, and worlds at purple belt this year.
Yeah, those are difficult divisions.
Absolutely.
We're not saying they're not difficult divisions. And he does very well when he's at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And he has had some breakouts, like little things that happen when he is in these larger tournaments and places that he does look good. But he also has some deficits that are definitely seen throughout.
Yeah, he's not a finished product yet.
Yes.
And I'm curious. But again, it is odd to have him on this list for breakout of the year. It's like, he was like one of the stars of a big series that Flo's run for a couple of years now. It was interesting. That throw over Mergali, I think, put in a lot of people who didn't know who he was now do know who he was, but a lot of people also, he was one of the fan favorites going in to ADCC like before that.
Especially if Mergali never really returns, then
Felipe Costa. This is a weird one for me because Zach and I do commentary for an event down here called Copa Elite. And Felipe Costa was a brown belt that like showed up on a whim, on like a no notice, and won our entire tournament.
Not really a whim. He was kind of brought in.
He was kind of brought in, but like he's a guy that we didn't know who he was, and then we saw and we were like, oh, Zach and I both like during the event are going like mouthing like this guy is really good.
I didn't realize it was Little Orange. Like that's his what's the
Laranja.
Yeah. I always forget and I'm like, oh, that's Little Orange.
Yeah. So this is weird for me. I think he has a huge breakout year this year, but this is weird because we knew him last year. It's like, he, I think, definitely deserves to be on this list. This is one where I am really colored by like having known who he was for, because we called an entire tournament that he smashed through and all went, yeah, this is going to be a guy that gives everyone problems next year.
But he's had a lot of notable wins and good wins. Now they've all been division wins.
Mm-hmm.
But he's had some really good performances.
Yeah. He wins Nogi Worlds this year. I think that's his biggest performance this year.
Well, he didn't win the crown.
No, he didn't win the crown.
Okay.
I think this list for me is between we're going to go through Cassiamora and Achilles Rocha here in a second, but basically between Felipe Costa and Adele.
Yeah.
Or Owen Jones. Like those three guys, I think, are both.
I think Owen Jones or Adele.
Yeah. Because Owen's the guy we had to look up. I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah, we had to actually look.
Felipe Costa, you're like, oh, he's been winning brown belt. Like he was more of a known quantity before that. Owen Jones was a purple belt
and I think,
beginning of this year.
I think breakout of the year, we could pick a female and a male.
Yeah. Adele and Owen.
Yeah.
Cassiamora, notable mention here. Basically going from blue to black in 363 days. We've talked about her run. The reason you can do that is if you win a world tournament for IBJJF, you can go to the next belt with no pause period. Everyone always does a full year. They do a gi cycle and a no gi cycle. They do a full thing.
Yeah.
Cassiamora is the first person to ever in modern era go win a blue, go to purple, win blue, I forget it's no-gi or gi, I forget how it works, but win a no-gi, win a gi, win a no-gi, win a gi to go up in belt and basically skip the other half of that season respectively. No one's ever done that. That is crazy. And then she wins IBJJF no-gi Worlds. Like that is an amazing accomplishment. I think if Adele wasn't on this list, that would be Cassiamora. The only other weird thing is that she's really only had one tournament at black belt. And so it's really hard to like, it's really hard to say. I think she fits the definition of breakout star of the year though.
Yeah, she does.
We just only saw her in amateur IBJJF tournaments and a couple of like showcase super fight matches.
Yeah.
But we didn't really see her in any big US based pro tournaments.
Yeah.
Which was my kind of problem. Why it's hard for me to pick her. Yeah, you won a bunch of great amateur tournaments for IBJJF, but we didn't see you in like ADCC. But going from blue to black and then winning a major, not even just going there, winning a major at black is astonishingly impressive. And we are this next year almost. I think this next year she will be breakout of the year.
I think she will.
I think she will also go from first year black belt and then stomp through black belt, and you're like, okay, now we very much know who she was. But like starting the year at blue and ending at black is a wild story, but we still don't really know a whole lot about her game at the black belt level. And I think for me, that's what I'm looking to see this coming year, and then she'd be on the short list. Another funny inclusion here is Achilles Rocha. We've known who Achilles was since he was 13?
Yeah,
something
long
like that.
time. I remember him.
Remember his match at Jits King versus Andrew Tackett, or no?
No, I do not. I don't remember any of Jits King.
Yeah,
that was never on my radar.
We've been watching Achilles
before my time
for a really long time, so it was very fun. He's a new black belt now. He won No-Gi Worlds at Brown, got promoted to black. It was just so funny. It's like we've seen him do trials for years. We've seen him. He was in ADCC this year with him and his sister and his dad, which is really cool to have all three of them there. But it is just very odd to have him like on this list of like he's just been a kind of a slow burn. He's been a kid that we've watched turn into an adult and like now turn into like a world level adult, but really didn't have any amazing like breakout performances this year. Other than the really fast armbar at Who's Number One. But again, I would have loved to see that versus like a top ranked guy to claim that title. This is, I think, I love Achilles. I think his game's really fun. It's just very funny to have him here for Breakout of the Year because it's like, yeah, we've kind of all known like Wagner and like the whole family is a very well. It's like calling Sarah Galvao a Breakout of the Year. It's like, yeah, we kind of know who Sarah Galvao is. Why? It's like because she's Andre's daughter. We've kind of known she's been killing it at the lower belts for years and years and years. But I think even Sarah has had less showcase performances. She had some this year on ADXC. But I think this next year, like, she could have a breakout as well. But Achilles is just very funny because we've seen him in trials for years and years doing very well under the tutelage of his dad. And it's funny. So I think this list for me, Adele takes it uncontested. And then I think Owen Jones takes for males. Because, again, a guy we had to look up beginning of the year that we absolutely know who he is now.
He was a purple belt, I believe. When
I know.
Yeah.
And then he's winning matches in ADCC. So let's see. What other things do we have? Submission of the year. What do you have for submission of the year? This is a weird one this year. I'm trying to think through.
I have some extra. So Just Magazine has a different list.
Okay.
So I keep on looking at theirs as opposed to the one that's.
I'm going to run through. This is a weird one this year because this is one that usually is like, oh, it's that one.
And
this year's a weird one.
I'll add in the ones that you don't talk about.
So we have Achilles Rocha versus Cameron Couch. It was like an 8 or 10 second sub at Who's Number One.
It was a pretty badass armbar.
It was a neat armbar. He sumo-gages him, takes Moabrum, finishes it. Neat, but it was also like, okay, like not at a world stage.
Yeah.
You have Adele Florino's mirror lock in the ADCC World Championships. For me, that's kind of up there. Because it was a from the guard standing mirror lock that she drops down on to finish versus Mosquito, right?
No.
Bia, other Bia.
The other Bia.
I always do this.
Bia, but Basilio.
Yep. They have Ben Edley's Hindiltine Aiga. For me, this is it's an impressive win. It's also Ben Eddy hits a Hindiltine, the thing that he has been known for
the thing that he does.
6 years. Yeah, it's kind of odd for inclusion on this list. It's impressive, but it's.
I mean, it's one of those things that if you don't know what it is, it's fun.
But also, Ben Eddy hit like 15 of these this year.
He did.
Like this is the thing he's done. It's not.
Yeah.
It's funny to include for submission of the year. Dante Leon's straight ankle lock over Mika Galvao. Again, the rubber match, the history behind that is interesting as well. Freebase here, Andre's flying armbar at the South American trials. Really neat. Again, you're in a trials. I think it was semifinals. I don't think it was in the finals. Gustavo Batista's ankle lock over Jansen Gomez in the IBJJF Worlds. I love this one because this is the new rule where you can go the other way in the ankle lock, and Gustavo Batista does it. I kind of want to include that in my eyes because, like, it's a guy exploiting a new rule for someone who wasn't ready for the new rule. Yeah. And it just makes me laugh so hard. And also, Jansen Gomez was the previous world champion at the weight class. To take out your world champion with a new technique being allowed that year is pretty badass in my eyes. So, Miranda, what other ones does Just Magazine have that I don't have?
We have Daniel Sather at Pit Submission Series with the flying triangle off the pit wall.
That was badass.
That was badass.
It was one of those, like, it's not a world stage event, but it is cool. It's like a super fight, and it was badass that the elevator drops like 9 feet into the triangle. Yeah. That was badass.
We have Lucas Kennard at CJI.
I think that's the one for
taking out Victor Hugo's leg.
I think that heel hook win, I think it's like...
Which I don't know why it's not on the list in front of us.
Because it's not flow.
But... They have other ADCs.
Yeah, they have one other.
They have one other.
Cade and Andrew Tackett. That's the only other one they have. That was a weird one because it was like, it almost looked like Victor Hugo wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And then if you watch it back in slow-mo, Victor Hugo, he's tapping very, very early to it. And
It
again,
makes you wonder about his foot.
a win is a win.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from Lucas Kennard on the win, but it was one of those, like, it was more weird than I would like it to be.
Yeah.
But still, man, it might be my sub of the year. Thinking about how big that was. It was like, we're going to see Nicky Rod and Victor Hugo. They're opposite sides of the tournament. We're going to see it.
Yeah.
And Lucas Kennard goes, hey, dog, I'm here too. Boom, take out your number 1 seed.
Yeah.
That was wild.
It always
in that
makes you
tournament.
wonder if he was hurt and there was like
Hey,
somebody.
man, we're going to give you 10K.
and
He's
somebody's
like,
talked to somebody and there was a little.
you always kind of wonder behind the scenes. It's funny,
Yeah,
like, years
'cause-
later, you find out behind the scenes how much goes on.
Because I've read the stories in the Reddits. They have the stories of like such and so's girlfriend was with this other guy on another team and then told the other team member that blah, blah, like you wonder, just stuff like that always makes me wonder.
It's a
but
very small community and information gets
yeah,
but again,
we all know each
taking
other.
nothing away from Lucas Kennard. It was
No,
an
not at all.
incredible heel
But
hook. But you always kind of wonder just with how quick Victor Hugo tapped, just where that was. And again,
or if it was just he wasn't ready. Like,
which was what it looked
because
like.
it's his warm up match. He's like, hey,
And it's
I'm
a guy,
chilling.
your late replacement guy versus whatever. Like, yeah, I'm gonna come
Yeah.
through this guy, and like, and that happens, and we've seen it happen in combat sports time and time and time and time again. That low seed guy that is ready for it, that this is his big moment, takes out the big name because the big name's like, yeah, I'm gonna kind of look through this guy and move to the next guy I'm going through, and this happens. But
And their last example, which is a horrible example, is Michael Pixley.
versus Mergali, yeah,
That was an injury, but it was also a head and arm
it's
choke.
impressive, but it's one of those, like, you go back and watch. This is one that, unfortunately, like, I wish I could see it without kind of the tinted glasses on it.
Yeah,
It's
or
one
it's
of
a
those,
Darce, but
yeah, you can see Mergali tear his shoulder and then like get started. Like, like the throw is almost more impressive than the sub to me.
Yeah.
Like the fact that like Mergali was just like wheeling and just stood right up and gets chucked by, like, that for me is more impressive than the sub itself because the arm's screwed up. And we haven't seen
Yeah.
Mergali since.
he had surgery, and I remember
Yeah.
the whole surgery thing being said. But
So Miranda, I've made my pick. What's your pick here? It's for me. It's either sorry.
but are we doing it for like?
No, not grappling around.
Like-
What is your, of these things we've gone through, what is your sub of the year? Because for me, it's between 3. It's Adele, because she's won everything else at this point.
Yeah,
Gustavo Batista, because again, I love when guys exploit
You like
your
the
rules. I love it. I
exploitation of
love it. And also,
rules.
to beat Jansen Gomez in the finals like that is really impressive. And then the third one is Kennard versus Hugo. For me, I think, as far as big moments, like Adele's mirror lock as well, because it's in a finals. Kennard over Hugo is you have your low seed taking out your high seed in that tournament.
I like that. I like the dark horse winning.
I know.
I'm a
And
dark horse.
That's kind of why I think for me it's that submission of the year, because it was like, not you would have been dumb as an outsider, even guys in our sport, to have picked Kennard in that match and as a betting man, and he's able to get it done and win
Victor
it.
Hugo
For me, that's like
has
what's
never
impressive.
been submitted by a black belt before.
Yeah,
And then to submit him very quickly,
yeah,
like because the match wasn't even very long.
in a super fight, in a tournament match like that, like that's, I think it really is Kennard for me.
Yeah, I think
because
that
it's just like,
if we're doing shits and giggles, it's the flying triangle off the cage wall.
yeah,
Because
the slather.
I
that was-
like some crazy shit.
That was fun.
But
I think for me, the only thing that would possibly push Adele or Gustavo on it is because they're finals for like big
Yeah.
tournaments. But I think, again, your dark horse taking out your
Yeah.
one seed in a big
and
tournament too.
And I think
is big
that
enough.
because I think that also changed a lot of the
Yeah,
the
it threw
tournament itself.
all of our predictions out the window completely, because like
Yeah.
this match doesn't happen. It is probable that Victor Hugo wins that tournament.
Yeah.
Probable. Like, he was the win. Nick Rodriguez hasn't beaten him.
True.
And then you beat him, and then suddenly it's like, cool, Nick Rodriguez is uncontested to the finals. So, yeah, I think that's my sub of the year. It threw the biggest wrench in the biggest tournament of the year. Lucas Kennard takes it. So, that was our matches of the year, grapplers of the year, things of the year. These are always a fun show to kind of, as a retrospective, go back and think about just the cool stuff that we get to talk about throughout the year, the matches that we get to watch. Being live in Vegas for CJI and ADCC was a wild week of events. I was very tired.
They sent out an email for pre-sale to be on the pre-sale list for CGI too.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen the email.
I
should send it over to the chat.
Okay, I will.
Did you pre-sale it already?
Yeah, I already signed up for it. I immediately did that.
So yeah, it'll be fun. Again, I'm looking forward to another year of Grappling Rewind, another great year of watching wild events, watching the developing stories in the grappling world, and overall, it's just been a lot of fun. Miranda, do you have any kind of closing thoughts? Again, it's the new year already, but do you have any closing thoughts for 2024 as we kind of put a pin in it and then move on to the next year?
Not really.
I'm looking forward.
I'm hoping this year brown belt is better than my last.
I think I'm going to compete this year as a black belt.
You think so?
I think I'm going to do it just because like my wife has to do it and needs to do it one more time at brown before she goes to black.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be neat to get us both together through a camp to do it once at black. And what are you
going to do? You going to do sub only or you going to do points?
I'll do whatever. I don't really care. Like as a black belt, I should be able to do both. Like it shouldn't matter either way. I should be able to put guys in front of me away. I would like to have a black belt match as a black belt because I've beaten black belts in competition before.
Yeah.
But like I'd like to do it as a black belt because I have not competed yet as a black belt, and like that would be a neat thing that I think I would like to do. I'd also like to be 170. That's the goal for the year. Like to put on 15 or 20 pounds. I think it'd be funny.
Are you?
No,
yeah,
I'm not going to yet. We have a kid maybe, but I think like naturally I can probably do that in a 12-month period. And I think it'd be a lot easier on my body to be just a little bigger, a little stronger.
No, it does.
And that's why I think so. I think I'm going to 170. I go to 170.
I'm going to try to do the opposite. I'm going to try to go back down.
Yeah.
Because I'm big.
Because I've competed as low as I did 141 a couple of times, 140. I've done 135 once. 145 for most of my competitive time. I've done 55. I've gone up as high as 170 when I weighed 145 because I got put in an extra bracket for free. But I think I would like to just put on some mass and just be a little bigger because I think it would help my longevity in the room a little bit. And so that's my New Year's resolution is to just get huge. I've started to lift again for the first time in like 6 or 8 years. So
at a gym or at home?
My wife has showed me like we're gonna lift it. No, we have a gym membership. We've had a gym membership for years and years.
Okay.
I just typically like use the treadmill and stuff on it.
Okay.
But we're actually like putting together a small program and like I'm like learning how to lift and like deadlift and squat and actually do lifts.
I need to get back into that.
Because now it's like this is my year. This is my year to get really big and funny. And then next year we'll see how I feel, and then we'll determine I either keep the mass or I like cut back down to 45. Right now I'm probably 55, but cut back down to be the weight I've been my entire adult life, which is about 151. So we will see. But that's my thing for the year. I like setting goals for New Year's. If you're again made it this far in the show, I think it's a really good tool in your room just for you to kind of give something that you move towards. I do really well with goal setting. And so I think a lot of the guys we talk about here openly talk about setting goals for themselves and like going to meet them and working towards them. I think it's a really good framework to better and improve and enrich your life. So
yeah, it is good to have goals because I have tendency to not do the goals and then be like, why am I not getting shit done? Well, because you don't have any goals, Miranda. So I myself.
You just texted me.
Well, because I just sent the link for the
pre-sale.
The pre-sale because you told me to, and because if we don't do it right this second, I will
forget.
So, yeah, that's it. 2024 was an interesting year to say the least.
2025, here we come.
Yep.
So as always in the show,
we're there already.
I'm your host, Maine. It's my co-host
Miranda,
and we got the Grappling Rants, and that's what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.